Recording in progress.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. We're not sing.
Yeah, but it's in the back. But you don't need it.
Okay, just say. Okay. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvaseshavam Punyavari Astachai Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Punyavari Astyacha Deshatare Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Abhaktavinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodan Yamunatira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Bol Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Marathon ki jai. Gauda Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Vicharini Nirvasesha Sanyavari Pastichade Shatarni. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna everybody. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Haribo. Just excuse me for a minute. I'm going to have to ask someone to bring a blanket because it's almost freezing in the room I'm in. There's no heating and it's almost freezing. It's about 3 degrees. So I'm just going to go and get some blanket. Just hold on a minute. Haribo. Haribo. Want me to get something, Maharaj? I need a blanket. I can't sit here for 2 hours like this. You can't put it on. It's 9 to 11. You're supposed to put it on 6 times twice. Something may be coming. You have to be prepared. Never know what will happen next in this material world. But one thing for sure, we know what's happening next in terms at least of our hearts. Internally, maybe we don't. Externally, we could say we do, because this in maybe 2 or 3 days' time, was it 2 or 3 days' time, officially speaking, the Srila Prabhupada book marathon begins. So I hope that everyone is aware of that. You may not be able to participate very actively. We may not be, let's say, inspired to do so. I hope you are, because this is a great way to advance in spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada one time said that the best way to overcome mental speculation and material, we're basically speaking our mind of always, say, a hotbed of material desires. The best way to overcome that, Prabhupada said, is to always be planning, thinking how I can be a part of spreading Krishna consciousness, to distribute this message to others. This is the best way. Why? Because, well, one thing, it engages our mind. The mind is busy thinking of ways to increase the Sankirtan. It could be any service, of course, but because we're talking about specifically Prabhupada's book marathon, maybe putting more emphasis there. So one, it's fully engaging our mind. The other is the most pleasing activity to our acharyas. Pure devotees don't come into this world because of Black Friday. Thank you very much. That's marvelous. Thank you very much, Krishna. Yeah, pure devotees don't come into this world. I don't know if you have Black Friday where you are, but in France yesterday, day before, was Black Friday. Everybody's out shopping to try to get a bargain, I guess. And there's no bargains out there. There's no gain at all. Bargain. There is no gain. They're simply entangling themselves further in causes of suffering. Maybe immediately they think this is great, but ultimately it causes further suffering, buying all these things. But that's not what acharyas come into this world for. They don't come into this world to try to command. They don't come into this world even to get followers. They come into this world out of love and compassion. And of course, love and compassion for the living entities, but for Krishna, because Krishna's parts and parcels are an illusion, they come into this world to increase Krishna's pleasure, to try to reconnect conditioned souls with the Lord. So, more blankets here. I can just. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. More blankets are arriving. So excuse us in that. Get it past there. Oh, there we go. Like a bear. Okay. Can you see me? Can you see me? I look like one of those Ku Klux Klan or something. Hold on. This blanket's kind of awkward. There we go. That's a bit better. Just put the other foot up. There we go. There we go. That's better. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so this is by pleasing the pure devotees or assisting them in the reason for their entry into this duplicitous world, we can, Hare Krishna, surely please Krishna. And it's only by pleasing Krishna that we can, let's say, wake up, that we can come out of this conditional state. So Sankirtan itself is the method. Lord Chaitanya particularly has introduced this Sankirtan movement specifically for this reason, to preach or spread Krishna consciousness everywhere and try to awaken the dormant devotional bhakti-lata bij in everyone's heart. And that's our opportunity. So anyone who takes part in this is basically guaranteed to receive yesterday we were watching one very short, sweet video clip of a God Sister Srila Prabhupada disciple. Her name is Radhakund Devi Dasi. Perhaps some of you saw it already. She is based, I guess she's still based in Vrindavan. She was for decades. And she distributes books, so she's probably in her 70s now. I don't know, quite likely. But she was going out every day distributing books to the pilgrims who come to the Krishna Balaram temple, or organizing others to do so. And very enthusiastic. And she was talking a little bit about, just now, maybe a few days ago, about the book marathon and distributing books just to get the devotees enlivened. And she was so inspired. She was, we were so happy distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, you know. You don't know, what is it? Why do you feel so happy? It's like, you're not getting paid. Mostly people are not very interested. It was like, what is it? There's something very special. It's not like maybe in the material world you get some happiness because you get what you want or something. Maybe a little bit of that there. But basically speaking, she said, why are we so happy? And she said, Prabhupada said that when you distribute a book, Lord Chaitanya personally comes and gives you a big hug. So that's why we feel so happy. Well, we may not see that going on. We don't have the eyes to see. Pure devotees may. Whatever it is, it's even if we do not necessarily feel so ecstatic or feel the urge, the need, or whatever we want to call it, nonetheless, if we have any feeling of indebtedness to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said you should preach You should preach like I am following in my footsteps, preach like I am preaching. Well, how did Prabhupada preach? Primarily through his books. This is the foundation of our movement. Without book distribution, pretty much every other activity is supported. If you look at the seven purposes of ISKCON, maybe whatever number it is, varies. But if you look at the purposes of ISKCON, one of them, the seventh, generally listed as seventh. Purpose of ISKCON is to, publish, translate, publish, and distribute transcendental literatures, Krishna conscious literatures, for the purpose of fulfilling the above purposes. This book distribution, which can fulfill all the above purposes, which are whatever they may be, different purposes Prabhupada outlined in his document, for ISKCON to establish, various communities, and so on and so forth. So book distribution is foundational activity in our movement, whatever form it takes, but to spread this message. And Prabhupada was very much, if you do read Prabhupada's letters, not only his letters, his lectures also, of course, conversations also, but particularly in his letters, how many times Srila Prabhupada emphasizes the importance and how dear it is to him to distribute these transcendental literatures. So today we're going to, and please forgive us if your main service or your inspirational service, your bhava is for other forms of devotional service. They're also Sankirtan. But this is something which we can all take to heart. And if we take it to heart favorably, it can remove envy from our hearts also. Sometimes envy comes in the form of various reactions, maybe pride or anger or some other negative emotion sometimes comes up when perhaps some emphasis is given to a particular service or something. All services are absolute in their pure sense. And any one of us who connects with any of the services which are pleasing to Krishna is engaged in Sankirtan. As I was mentioning the other day, and maybe not online, but that actually the whole purpose of existence is to perform Sankirtan. It means glorification of the Supreme Lord, complete glorification. So whatever our nature is, when we come to the complete platform, only then are we truly engaged in Sankirtan. Otherwise, we're engaged in activities under the direction of somebody who is completely pure, who is engaged in complete Sankirtan. And by following in their footsteps, one can also, by the mercy of Krishna, the mercy of the Guru, one may also come to complete Sankirtan, perfect stage. Now, naturally, one's constitutional nature of bringing pleasure to Krishna in whatever way it may be will manifest. But in our present stage, we're practicing. It may not be our constitutional, in the sense, practically speaking, activity. In fact, it probably won't be in terms of the details, but in terms of the spirit, we're trying to develop that spirit. That spirit means non-enviousness, satisfaction, and so many other different ways. It depends on our maturity or our growth in spiritual life, but there will be so many different emotional manifestations, some favorable, some unfavorable. We try to cultivate the favorable ones, feeling of indebtedness, a feeling of gratitude, a feeling of that we're so sincere. Don't think, well, I'm so sincere, I'm so fortunate, I'm so good. We can think we're so fortunate. That's good. I'm so good, I'm very humble, I'm very expert. This is not very, even if we are, these are not good, let's say, states of mind. State of mind of humility, genuine humility. I can't imitate, but it should be developing as we're progressing in spiritual life, and respect for others, even if they're in a very different department, or you could say externally. It's the internal thing, which is really the essence of Sankirtan. And that's cultivated by cooperation, submission, prayer, following the footsteps of the pure devotees of the Lord, serving the Vaishnavas, etc., which will naturally include trying to always think how I can please Krishna through my spiritual masters, through the parampara. What would they like? Prabhupada said our only prayer should be, how, to his spiritual master, the only thing he ever asked was, how can I serve you? How can I serve you? So this is the only, basically speaking, the only thing we need to know. How can I serve you? So like that, and then it's a reciprocal. Spiritual master is always thinking how he can serve his followers or his students, disciples or whatever. And the disciple should be thinking how I can serve the devotees, how I can serve my spiritual master, etc. Then it becomes a very cooperative, very what's the word? Very compatible situation, and a very favorable situation for the growth of pure devotional service, or for the spreading of pure devotional service of Krishna consciousness around the world. So this Sankirtan movement is really based upon that principle of everyone coming together with Krishna in the center. Prabhupada Book Marathon is ultimately based on that. No matter what we're doing, we may be washing the dishes, we may be looking after the babies, whatever our position may be, but in the light of that, how we can facilitate or how we can also participate in this great mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. Hold on, one of the blankets has fallen off my feet and my feet are going numb. Not easy when you're sitting in these modern chairs to get things organized like this. Strange shapes and sizes. Come on, there we go. It should be a bit better. I feel like one of those old men, you see them sitting there sometimes all hardly like a baby. You know, when you're a baby, you wrap them up in all kinds of different blankets and clothes. When you're old, also the same thing there. It's you go back to being a baby again. What to do? Material body. So let's get into it. I thought we would read a little bit from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'm going to read from the 7th canto. It is possible that Janananda might want to put it on the board. Be a bit of reading. Hearing from Prabhupada is the best thing to do. There's nothing better than hearing the message of Krishna Katha from the lips of a pure devotee. It's not from the lips exactly, but from the heart of a pure devotee. In this case, it's Prabhupada's writings in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's have a look. Where should we start? I think we'll start on text 4, this Canto 7, Chapter 9, text 42. If you want to put that on the screen, Masika, if you can. This is the prayers of Plaid Maharaj. Probably you're all familiar with the history of Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsingadev's deliverance of Hiranyakashipu. And after that, the Lord was still very irritated, you could say, at least from the external perspective. He was still appeared to be very unhappy or angry or whatever. No one could pacify him. So eventually, Prahlad, who was just a small boy, son of Hiranyakashipu, came forward and started to offer prayers. And these fully satisfied the Lord. And they fully satisfy us too if we hear them attentively. So because of our time, circumstance, etc., we won't read the Sanskrit for this one. We'll go straight to the English, please. Oh my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you, who manage the affairs of the universe, in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity. And for great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Now, it would be lovely to read the purport, but this particular verse and purport especially emphasize the importance of service to the devotees. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, here the words Priya Janan, Anu Sevatam, Naha, indicate the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Now, this is the foundation also, I don't know, analogically speaking, but it's certainly an essential constituent. Without this constituent of mood of servant of the servant, there will be no growth of the spirit of Sankirtan in the hearts, and consequently no growth of pure devotional service. Sankirtan and pure devotional service are synonymous. They appear to be different from a conditioned point of view. An absolute point of view, it's one and the same. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. This is the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who shows us the way to become Gopi, Bhatu Pada Kamalor, Dasa Dasa Anudasa. One should not be proud of becoming directly the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, one must seek a pure devotee, a servant of the Lord, and engage oneself in the service of such a servant. The more one becomes the servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. This is also the injunction of Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam vajashayo vidahu. One can understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the parampara system. In this regard, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Tandara charana sevi bhakta sanevas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord, and let me live with devotees. Janame janame hoy, hey abhilash. Following Narottam Das Thakur, one should aspire to be a servant of the Lord's servant, life after life. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also sings, Tumi tatakura tomara kukura baliya janamore. Oh my Lord, oh Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. The dogs are supposed to be very faithful to their masters, whatever, they never leave their master. One must become the dog of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. For a pure devotee can deliver Krishna without difficulty. Krishna se toma, Krishna nite pa. Krishna is the property of his pure devotee. And if we take shelter of a pure devotee, he can deliver Krishna very easily. Plaid wants to engage in the service of a devotee, and therefore he prays to Krishna. My dear Lord, kindly give me the shelter of your very dear devotee, so that I may engage in this service, and you may then be pleased. So this is the mood of a pure devotee. He just wants to please the pure devotee of the Lord by engaging in service. Service doesn't mean do what we want. You know, when we say, please engage in your service, and we hope that everyone online today is chanting Hare Krishna, much as you can. And in practically speaking, Prabhupada, Prabhupada emphasized the meaning of this Mahamantra as being, my dear Lord, please engage me in your devotional service, basically speaking, and release me from the trap of being engaged in Maya service. So we're actually asking for devotional service. Devotional service is supposed to be hoitikiya pratiyata, unmotivated, unconditional. On the Raganuga, the spontaneous platform, there's no question of what to do. It's automatically understood because it's your nature. You don't have to preach to a bird to fly or a fish to swim. You don't have to convince them. They can't avoid it. You have to convince the baby sparrow, you're supposed to fly. Maybe in the beginning it may not fly, but it's eager to fly. As a baby is eager to crawl or eager to walk or something. It's naturally inherent within their nature. So it's within the nature of the soul to serve Krishna favorably. But in the interim stage, where we're not serving necessarily Krishna favorably, because we still have so many material desires and so on and so forth there, it's not. But by proper execution of devotional service, Panyabilasita Shunyam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam, when we're free of these other goals in our life, other objects of service, when our service is focused through the Parampara on the Supreme Personality of God, then Anukulyena, the devotional service becomes favorable. Anushilanam. Anu is, generally speaking, following in the footsteps of great devotees. And what do? We shilan, and we cultivate according to their direction. Just like if you don't know how to farm or grow something in your garden, you should better take advice from those who do. Otherwise, you'll waste a lot of money, a lot of time, and maybe even make it more detrimental to grow things. So we take advice from those who know. We cultivate the garden under a little bit of intelligence from those who have it. And then gradually we may also wake up and learn how to do it. So in devotional service also, most important is Anushilanam, following in the footsteps, Anushilanam, is Krishna Anushilam, devotional service which is pleasing to Krishna. And what do we know what pleases Krishna? We have to find out from someone who knows. So we ask the pure devotees of the Lord, and they give us we may not even ask them, they tell us what does please Krishna. They made it very simple. You could say for Kali Yuga, Sankirtan, chanting the holy names and things like that. But still we have to find out. Otherwise, tendency is we speculate, we've got our own goal, our own interpretation, so on. Unless we don't reach the objective. Krishna is not some object who is subject to our opinions or our demands. He's completely Surat, Abhigya Surat, completely independent. He can do as he likes. But he's controlled by the love of his pure devotees. We're controlled by the love of their devotees. This way it works. Krishna becomes obligated to those who assist his pure devotees. We'll read on. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlad Maharaj does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in this material world may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. This is the idea. The idea is not just to sell a book. The idea is to engage this person in the service of the Lord's pure devotee. And if that means to give a donation and it's used for the service or the way the pure devotee would like it to be used, then there's a wonderful good fortune for the person who gives. There's still good fortune, actually, when they give. They may be giving knowledge or ignorance, but in principle, they're giving something for the transcendental book or the service of the Lord. So certainly they get. But for that to become, let's say, at least from our point of view, if we don't utilize that in the service of Krishna, this is most unfortunate, to say the least, sinful. And if someone gives a donation to be used in the service of the Lord and we use it otherwise, this is the very essence of envy or Prashandi, one who to impede the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, decries or impedes, etc. Atheistic mentality. Everything ultimately is meant for Krishna's pleasure, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. But especially if someone is given something in service, it must be utilized for that specific purpose, for the pleasure of the Lord. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow, and thus Prahlad Maharaj wants to save the world, the whole world, by spreading Krishna consciousness. Now people, I don't know, they talk about trying to save the world from COVID or something. We can't really save the world from COVID or any kind of disease or old age or death. But the soul can be delivered from this being subjected to these unnatural experiences. Birth, death, disease, and old age are superfluous. In the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami states that the material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be mitigated immediately by the linking process of devotional service. But unfortunately, people in general do not know this. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva has compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam. People don't know. They have no idea. They've completely forgotten. Completely forgotten the spiritual goal of life. Completely enamored by the material world and its temporary objective goals, which lead to karmic reactions and consequent sufferings. But this they do not know. They can't see how karma is related to even the present pandemic, for instance. There's karma. It's all based on karma. For a devotee, it has another factor involved, but otherwise it's totally a karmic reaction. You're not going to remove it by vaccines. Karmic reaction is a karmic reaction, which is not going to stop because some clever scientist thinks he's come up, or somebody thinks they've come up with something to counter it. Don't worry, there'll be something else to get you. That's how karma works. It may not be from that one, but maybe from something else. You can't avoid karmic reaction by any method other than transcendence, devotional service, which removes. Krishna may still, because of various other reasons, the devotee may also contact, in this case, COVID, like anybody else. Other reasons are their purification, becoming more dependent, getting free to reactions, etc. If there are any remaining reactions, etc., in a way that one doesn't continue to accumulate more reactions. Understanding that ultimately Krishna is the controller of everything, and whatever he ordains, that is what will happen. There's not a competition between God and other forces going on here. It is the will of the living entity, and the Lord reciprocating with that will accordingly. Nothing to do with some kind of forces from other planets or whatever it may be. That may be going on, but that's also part of karma, which is Mayajak Shena Prakriti. Prakriti Kriyamani, Gunai Sabai. Everything, Mayajak Shani Prakriti Suyati Situation, everything's working under Krishna's direction. Everything, but the foolish living entity thinks that I'm the doer, but actually it's all going on under the direction of Krishna. And when it realizes this, acts accordingly and becomes free from karmic reactions. Although they appear to suffer externally, those sufferings are merely the Lord's allowance to cleanse us of the causes of material entanglement, which is our attachments in this material world, our identifications, and so on and so forth, sense gratification. Krishna wants to free his devotees from this, so he may put the devotees through various allow certain circumstances to come along in order to help free us from unwanted desires or excessive attachments to objects which are obstacles on our path of devotion. Let's see, the grace of the Lord, the whole world. Let's go on to the next verse. Next verse, I think, is quite famous. Next, Prahlad Maharaja. Yes, it is. We'll read the Sanskrit to this one. Go back to Rasi. There we go. Novo Vijay Paradurajaya Vaitaranyas Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chita Shochetato Vimukacheta Sa Indriyarta Maya Sukaya Paramunvahato Vimudhan. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada in 1976. Well, I was there in 76. I wasn't in Mayapur in 77. But during the Mayapur festival in 76 and in 77, Prabhupada was lecturing on Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, because they're so important for practitioners in devotional service. This pastime of Prahlad Nrsimha and the killing of Hiranyakashipu is so important, for especially everyone relishes it. Even Lord Chaitanya relishes this pastime with his associates, but specifically in relationship to this world where the living entities are still forgetful of their constitutional position. Particularly, these pastime of Lord Nrsimhadev is extremely important to remove all the obstacles on the path, all the Hiranyakashipus in our hearts, and to develop that dependent mood of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, who's often cited as the greatest devotee. At a certain level, he's the greatest, or manifesting, let's say, the mood of the greatest devotee. At this level, especially the level where we're Bhajana Kriya and Narta Nivritti, also, especially at this level. For those who are practitioners in the Vaidhi path, this pastime is extremely, it's relevant to everyone, but it's extremely important at this stage. And the prayers of Prahlad are very, very important prayers for us to understand, imbibe, and to absorb, and to try to follow after the mood. So we're going to the English, please. I remember that was the tune they used to chant in the morning also, for these verses when Prabhupada's servant would chant them. O best of the great personalities, I'm not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. And this is interesting. I don't know what Prabhupada mentions, but something just struck me there. Making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. And so they think they're maintaining. This mentality of thinking, I am maintaining. This is an illusion, me and mine, illusion that people are in. I am maintaining. Krishna is the maintainer, not us. And to realize this is Krishna consciousness. That people in general are not thinking like that. Prahlad calls them fools and rascals. They're making very elaborate plans. We can see that all the time. Now, whatever it is, but they're always trying to find some alternative to fulfill these unfortunate desires of simply wanting to maintain their families, societies, and countries, not realizing that ultimately everything belongs to Krishna, nothing belongs to us, and he actually is Krishna who's maintaining everything. So Prahlad Maharaj is fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, his glories and his activities, and he doesn't have paradukha dukhi. It said the pure devotee has no anxiety. His only anxiety, let's say suffering, his only suffering is due to the ignorance of others. He feels very sad to see that for the fools and rascals. They may think themselves very clever. In fact, those who are in a very, let's say, seemingly opulent, fortunate situation in this world, they're very rich, they're very living in a nice place with nice facilities, maybe a nice family, and well respected, etc. in the material world, is actually not at all in a fortunate situation if they're attached to it and identifying with it as being mine and being the doer, possessor, and so on, enjoyer. They're most unfortunate because there's much, much more karmic reaction coming their way because they're so much more implicated in trying to exploit the material energy. They think that they're very well situated, and they feel sorry for the poor people, but the poor people are just getting the reaction to their previous exploitations, and those now who are getting the reactions to some piety from the past are now accumulating so much reaction, and that's depending on how they utilize their situation, of course. There's so much reaction, good or bad, to entangle them further in the material world. So neither one or the other is actually favorable, or let's say fortunate. It's only if we understand it's their relationship and the relationship of the material energy with Krishna, then good fortune begins. But because people's family life, previous verses, Prahlad Maharaj was discussing how this sex desire or this force between the family is like an itch. The more you itch it, the more itching is there. It may subside for a moment, but it quickly comes up again. This is sex life is like an itch, scratch. It becomes more and more, say, Krishna, Krishna, and more irritable. And it doesn't go away. It's not just by trying to satisfy it. It has to have a higher, from Drishva and the Martate, we have to have a higher taste. We want to get free of these lower tastes. People think these are the higher tastes, sex life, and etc. like that, but they're actually lower tastes for the soul, which keep us implicated in this material world. So this is the process of mercy of a pure devotee to set us free from this cycle, samsara cycle. Okay, let's read the purport. So he's concerned with love for those fallen souls. Throughout the entire world, everyone is making big plans to adjust the miseries of the material world. I'm sure everyone will agree with that one, especially at the moment. And this is true at present, when Prabhupada says exactly the same, in the past and in the future. Nonetheless, although they make elaborate political, social, and cultural plans, they have all been described herein as vimuda, fools. And Prabhupada didn't usually beat around the bush. Even with important people, you'd often call them a rascal or a fool. And they'd have to admit that they were, because they really, some theories or something, but they don't really know. But they're claiming to know. They're claiming to be teachers, but they don't know. What really is the truth. The Prabhupada would say, you're not a teacher, you're a cheater. A lot of words in English like that, you just change one syllable and they become opposite. Dog and God, teacher and cheater. It's kind of fascinating analysis of language, but Prabhupada wouldn't hesitate to call a spade, as we say sometimes in English. A rascal, even though they were a professor in university or a big leader in some society of some kind. You're nothing but a rascal, or a vimuda. Not even a muda, you were a vimuda, a big rascal. And mudas are just stupid. The vimudas think they're intelligent, but they're actually basically propagating stupidity, ignorance. So they're big rascals. They're causing people to become dull and spiritually, completely ignorant. Nonetheless, we read that, the material world has been described in Bhagavad Gita as dukkhalayam shashvatam, temporary and miserable. But these fools are trying to turn the material world into sukhalayam, a place of happiness, not knowing how everything acts by the arrangement of material nature, which works in her own way. And I mentioned this now. Prakriti kriyamani gunai karmani sabasha. Ahankara vimudatma kartaha miti manyate. The beware of the spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. There is a plan for material nature personally known as Durga. Many people worship Durga, especially Indians from Bengal, other parts of India. Maybe they call her by a different name, but they worship the material energy personified. Kali, but different forms of the Lord are there. Of Devi are there. There is a plan for material nature, personally known as Durga, which is specifically to punish the demons. Although the asuras, the godless demons, struggle for existence, they are directly attacked by the goddess Durga, who is well equipped with 10 hands with different types of weapons to punish them. You may not see that physically, but they come in various, let's say, arrangements of nature, diseases, climatic chaos, famines, anxieties of various kinds, political strife, wars, all kinds of different things. Everyone struggles hard to fight through the modes of passion and ignorance and conquer mature nature, but at the end, everyone is vanquished by nature's laws. Can't avoid it. Defeat everyone, every living entity is completely, absolutely defeated in their human life. But every single thing is lost except for the reactions and the attachments. But everything that you work hard for, everything, your family, your house, your position in society, the wealth, everything, completely lost. Because it never belonged to us at any stage and never will do. And until we wake up, we're going eternally going through this experience of, bhogatyaga, constantly going through this experience of attachment and then suffering. It's just because we're in ignorance. But nobody is doing anything, materially speaking, to change that or to help people get out of it. Simply, even the prayers of the religionists are basically, give me more, give me more. I don't want to suffer the bad reactions. Please don't punish me. Please give me the good reactions. Let me go to heaven without the suffering, please. This is gross materialism. Be it a little pious if it's following religious principles. No doubt about that. But to rise above this whole illusion is pretty much not on the agenda of science, religion, politics, economics, social media. Of course, there are pure devotees involved in various sectors of society introducing knowledge, but most people are not interested in it. They want ignorance. If you give somebody a book about sex life, they'll jump at it, many people. Or a book how to make money, how to overcome your mental anxieties, how to have a nice family, where to go for a nice holiday, where to get a good meal. It's such gross ignorance, animalistic, sophisticated animal life, not much more than that. They're also looking where to find food, where to find shelter, where to find a mate, where to have a nice place to live, and so on and so forth. The same word, another Mr. word. There is a river known as Vaitarani between the material and spiritual worlds, and one must cross this river to reach the other side of the spiritual world. This is an extremely difficult task, not easy. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, this energy of mind consisting of the three modes of nature is difficult to overcome. The same word Dharatyaya means very difficult is used here. Therefore, one cannot surpass the stringent laws of material nature, except by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. There is no other way. It's not by rocket ships. It's not by austerities. It's not by, study and study and study. It's not even by sadhana. Chant, chant, chant. That's not in of itself the cause. The cause is one and only. As Prabhupada writes in another purport in the first canto, the awakening of our dormant love of Krishna is not at all dependent upon the mechanical process of hearing and chanting, but depends wholly and solely upon the mercy of the Lord. So they're all baffled in their plans. Nonetheless, although all materialists are baffled in their plans, did we miss a line there? I'm not sure if I missed a line. Therefore, one cannot surpass the we didn't miss a line, but cannot surpass the stringent laws of material nature except by the mercy of the Lord. That's the only way. When the Lord showers his mercy to deliver the living entity, when he's pleased, he may deliver us. Nonetheless, although all materialists are baffled in their plans, they try again and again to become happy in this material world. Don't worry. We're working on it. We'll save you soon. Don't worry. There might be another variant, but don't worry. We'll find another thing to try to counteract that soon. Don't worry. Then there'll be another one. Don't worry about that either. There'll definitely be another one. And it'll be worse than the previous one, quite likely. So they say. Never ending, because it's the material world. You call it this, you call it that. Doesn't make any difference. They're going to be coming. The material world is dukkhalayam shashvatam. We do our best, but we should take shelter of Krishna. Those who are Krishna conscious, trying to serve the Lord, are not unhappy. Whereas one who has no assets in Krishna consciousness and is struggling for existence is not only foolish, but extremely unhappy also. Now, we're not necessarily talking from the external aspect of happy, unhappy. It may appear that devotees are sometimes happy because we've got one foot in one boat, we could say, material, and another foot in the spiritual boat. It's kind of, we haven't got one or the other exactly, but one's in the position of constitutional, one's coming into the position of constitutional happiness. One may not be situated there yet, but one's in the boat of constitutional happiness, which frees one, the boat of devotional service. Though we may still be dreaming of the material world, so we don't feel so comfortable in that boat. But that's the boat which will take us out of the material. People in the material may feel very comfortable temporarily, according to what they perceive of as happiness. Prabhupada one time said, when the devotee said, I feel so blissful, Prabhupada said, you don't have a clue what that means. What is genuine blissfulness is simply, you don't even think about it, it just is the nature of the soul. In the material world, people's idea of happiness is very relative compared to the situation. If somebody from the heavenly planets were to look at their state of existence in this world, they might think, oh God, the poor creatures, they're suffering so horribly. Look at them walking on the street with all these clothes on. It's freezing cold, the wind's blowing, somebody's hassling them, the police are roaring by with sirens blaring, and they're wearing masks and they're scared of COVID, and they've just lost their mobile phones. It's a horrible place. What a horrible place this is. But when you live there and you only know there, you kind of, relatively speaking, consider it happy or distressed according to the experience which we have. But in reality, because we don't have much experience beyond that, materially on a higher level of consciousness, this is a horrible place. You only live a few years, and that's all full of anxiety and stress and fear and pain and so on and so forth. With a bit of happiness mixed in there. But anyway, people, that's how it is in this material world. Where are we? Those who are Krishna conscious, okay. Prahlad Maharaj was happy and unhappy simultaneously. He felt happiness and transcendental bliss because of his being Krishna conscious. Yet he felt great unhappiness for the fools and rascals who make elaborate plans to be happy in this material world. This is the paradukha dukhi of the devotee. He feels very distressed when he sees others. Not just distressed, they may look very happy, but he sees that they're causing distress. When happiness and distress are looked at a much higher level, any activity which leads to the development of future material bodies is considered an unhappy situation, an unfortunate situation. Like a person, a drunkard or something, they may think themselves very happy when they're drinking wine or whatever they drink, or a drug addict taking some heroin or something. They may be very happy, but anyone else thinks, oh, this is the most horrible situation. He's causing himself so much distress. Just for a few moments, pleasure, sex, life, so many things, a few moments of pleasure, but actually cause distress. So it's a very unhappy situation to be in. But someone who's engaged in activity which releases for the causes of this are in a happy situation, even if we're not experiencing at the moment, so to speak, relative happiness. But once in the situation, it's like going to college. You may not particularly like it, you may do. But you work hard to try to get your degree, and then you think you can be happy by having a good job. Amazing like that. So in one sense, it's not necessarily happy on the moment. You may forego that and get a job or something, but immediately, but then in the long run, you won't get such a good job. You undergo a little bit of suffering, if you want to say that, for a higher purpose. It's generally recommended, materially speaking. So on the spiritual path, the beauty about Lord Chaitanya's movement, as we mentioned earlier, is even the process is joyfully performed, as it states in the Bhagavad Gita. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. It's not like it's not even seen like an austerity. So yesterday we were on Harinam Sankirtan in the local city of Tours. It was cold, and in the morning it was a little bit snowing, in the afternoon it was just kind of like cold rain. And there was about 30 of us almost on Harinam in this city, of which 20 were volunteers. There were 15 of them were just people visiting, young people, boys and girls, visiting New Mayapur for some days, weeks, months, just to do some services, woofer type people. And about 15 of them were there. They're all dancing like crazy. They never experienced like this. And everyone else is around rushing in the cold with their bodies. And the devotees are all jumping and dancing and spinning around. Astonishing. And miserable weather, all the hassles of life these days. And the devotees are in bliss, dancing around. And the guests also in bliss. Anyone can taste the bliss. Okay, it may not be a permanent state in terms of, we're not purified yet to experience a permanent state like that. But you get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan by doing it. And Lord Chaitanya reciprocates by giving you a hug. And you start to dance and you start to sing and smile. I want to give this to others and engage others in it too. So this is the Lord's reciprocation. He's very pleased when he sees, and it doesn't matter who it is, anyone going out on the street dancing and chanting or distributing books, prasadam, whatever it is, sharing Krishna consciousness with others is very dear to the Lord. There's no one more dear than he. No, there ever be one more dear. The one who preaches this message is Lord Chaitanya's special mercy. Did we finish that purport? Yes, we did. Let's just read a bit of the next verse, which is text number 44, I guess. Here we go. This is another preaching verse. This is Prayena Deva Monayak Svavimukti Kama Monang Charanti Vijanepa Parata Nishta Naitan Vihaya Kripanan Vimuksha Kriko Tananyatvarasya Sharanam Brahmato Nupashye. That's verse indeed. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Monavrat. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. This is definitely a preacher's prayer, his mood of wanting everyone to get this opportunity. And it's like if some of you may be doctors, just imagine even now with a pandemic and you have medicine, say you do, I don't know if you do or don't, but say you do, but you don't go out and distribute it. You will be very discredited in society. You'll probably use your position as a doctor. People think, what is this? Person has the cure and we're suffering. Or you're on a battlefield and the doctor does nothing to help the injured soldiers. You'll be definitely disgraced, maybe severely disgraced. And so similarly, one who has this message, has this gift of Krishna consciousness, to not want to share it with others is very, very displeasing to Krishna. So a devotee doesn't want to go up into the mountains and hide away. Sometimes we see that great sages also do this in different time, place, and circumstance, but this is not the mood of Plaid. This is generally not the mood of our Sankirtan movement. Following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, it certainly wasn't his mood. Oh, let me just stay in Vrindavan and ring the bells offer a flower to Krishna and chant my own bhajans. No way. Prabhupada's day and night, racking his brains, if you want to use that word, how to bring this message to all the fools and rascals, how to deliver this message all over the world and beyond. You don't think, oh, they're all stupid. Some people think like you're wasting your time. They're all meat-eating rascals over there. Don't even bother. And people think like that. Prabhupada never thought like that. He was always thinking how to deliver this message. I know that without taking shelter, without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. Let's have a look at the purport to that verse. This is the decision of the Vaishnava, the pure devotee of the Lord. For himself, he has no problems, even if he has to stay in the material world, because his only business is to remain in Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person can go even to hell and still be happy. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Naivo vijay paradaratyaya vaitaranya. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. The pure devotee is never unhappy in any condition of life. We see this with Prahlad Maharaj Narayan, with Haridas Thakur, with Lord Jesus Christ, with all great persons. They're put into different external tribulations, but they're always focused on the lotus feet of the Lord. Narayana paraksavena kuttaschana bhivyati svagapavarga narakeshvara pitulyarta darshinaha. Devotee is solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. For a devotee, being situated in the heavenly planets and being in the hellish planets are equal. For a devotee lives neither in heaven nor in hell, but with Krishna in the spiritual world. The secret of success for the devotee is not understood by the karmis and jnanis. Karmis therefore try to be happy by material adjustment, and jnanis want to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. The devotee has no such interest. He is not interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest. Rather, his interest is in the busiest part of the world, where he teaches people Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose. Because Prabhupada is referring to our ISKCON society, no doubt there. The Krishna consciousness, I'll just go back a line there, the secret of success for the devotee is not understood by the karmis and jnanis. Karmis try to be happy by material adjustment, and jnanis want to become one with the Supreme. Why? Because they're still thinking of their own self-interest. They're thinking of fulfilling what I want, my want list. The devotee has a want list, but his want list is what does Krishna want? What will please Krishna? He has no other interest. Rather, the devotee's interest is in the busiest part of the world. What is amazing, and many times, of course, it's understandable. People come, they want to get away from the city, it's natural. But when it's in Krishna consciousness, may also stay away from the city for various reasons. Lord's will, preaching also in various other ways. But in his heart, he wants to see that he wants to be in the city to connect others to Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious movement was started for this purpose. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj didn't like temples that weren't in busy places when they're in the city. He liked it to be in the heart of the city, where thousands of people could come in contact with Krishna consciousness. We do not teach one to meditate in a secluded place just so that one may show that he has become very much advanced and may be proud of his so-called transcendental meditation. Although he engages in all sorts of foolish materialistic activity, a Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is not interested in such a bluff of spiritual advancement. In Kali Yuga, mostly it's a bluff. You sit there and your mind is wandering onto other things anyway. It doesn't do anyone any good whatsoever. Nobody benefits. If you're trying to preach Krishna, even if our mind wanders, at least there's a benefit for those around us. It may not be as much as it could be, but everyone's benefiting something. Yeah, when you try to share Krishna consciousness with others, everyone benefits something. No matter what degree it is, but everyone gets a benefit. Chanting and dancing and chanting on the streets, or trying to distribute books, even if nobody takes. Prabhupada said, don't worry, even if no one takes a book, but that's not our business to be, as if someone has to take a book. We try to do our part, try to be an instrument to spread this Krishna consciousness. Ultimately, it's up to Krishna. We just try our best. We're instruments. Our success, or your success, is that you're endeavoring to pass this message on. Rather, the devotee is interested in enlightening people in Krishna consciousness, because that is the only way for them to become happy. Well, the Siddha movement is to be happy and make others happy, so this is how it can be done. Prahlad Maharaj says clearly, Nanyam tadastya sharanam brahmato nipashye. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. One wanders within this universe, life after life, but by the grace of a devotee, a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can get the clue to Krishna consciousness and then not only become happy in this world, but also return home back to Godhead. That is the real target in life. The members of the Krishna conscious movement are not at all interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest, where one will only make a show of meditation, nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the city. It's an interesting one. Rather, every member of the Krishna conscious movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, as it is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That's a very important point. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement, we're not interested in this selfish, or let's say self-centered process. The devotees interested in going door to door, whatever it is, on the street, door to door, whatever form it takes, but trying to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. It's purpose. It's not just something you can do. It's the actual purpose of everything we do. The members of the Krishna conscious movement must be fully convinced that without Krishna, one cannot be happy. Thus, the Krishna conscious person avoids all kinds of pseudo-spiritualists, transcendentalists, meditators, monists, philosophers, and philanthropists. Although he may preach and meet them, different types of, let's say, philosophers or whatever on the street, or in door to door, whatever it is, we're not interested to associate in the sense of entering into their world, but rather the devotee, the pure devotee, wants to simply introduce people to Krishna's world. We're not introducing them to my world or your world. It's Krishna's world through the media of the pure devotee of the Lord. And this is the Sankirtan movement. And primarily Prabhupada emphasized. We can stop the share screen. Prabhupada primarily emphasized the importance of book distribution. And I'll finish off by just reading some quotes from Prabhupada. 1973 letter. Our preaching work will be measured by the quantity of books we distribute. So continue ever increasingly. Take care that devotees do not become sick. They should always be properly clothed and fed. Actually, this book production is most important, and you have pleased me very much. Just go on and flood the whole world with these Krishna books. See everywhere, every home having a Krishna book. At that time, 1973, Krishna book was one of the main, perhaps the main book that we were distributing. Regarding book distribution, everyone, including book distributors, must follow the standard regulation. Book distribution is preaching. That's an important point. Book distribution is preaching. It should not be thought of as done for money. It is executed as a preaching purpose. With these guidelines in mind, try to distribute as many books as possible. Sometimes we think it's being done for money. Too much pressure, too much stress. You've got to collect so much money, this, that, the other. Well, of course, we want to engage the conditioned souls, hard earned or whatever type of earning it is. We want to engage the results of their work in Krishna service for many reasons, no doubt about that, the more the merrier. But our main purpose is preaching, how to attract them to the message of Bhagavad Gita. Certainly if they give a donation, it's good. It's like approaching Krishna through Lakshmi. Lakshmi Narayan, you can't approach Lord Narayan directly, you have to go through Lakshmi. So in a sense, in order to understand or to get Krishna's mercy, to give them the intelligence to understand the message, they have to get Lakshmi's grace. In other words, they have to give up their trying to enjoy Lakshmi. Lakshmi is meant to be enjoyed by Narayan, not by us. And people think that this Lakshmi is mine. And thus they cause themselves no end of suffering by thinking like that. So we try to at least release as much as we can people from this horrific mentality and try to engage their so-called Lakshmi. Doesn't really belong to them, but they think it does. To engage it properly in the service of Narayan. There's a nice, this is from somewhere. April 73, Prabhupada wrote, "My dear boys and girls, you are working so hard and broadcasting the glories of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, and thus my Guru Maharaj will be so pleased upon you. Certainly my Guru Maharaj will bestow his blessings 1,000 times more than me, and that is my satisfaction. All glories to the assembled devotees, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami." And then Prabhupada, NB, no. Everyone should go with the Sankirtan party as soon as possible. Prabhupada's desire. Doesn't mean all the time, but sometimes we must go. It would be very hard to understand what is this movement about if you don't take part in the Sankirtan party. One devotee said to me yesterday when everyone was dancing on the street, I was taking some pictures, and they said, "We're having a really amazing party today." It's really far out. It is a party, Sankirtan party. It's better than Christmas party or any other birthday party or whatever party you can think of. You don't even have to spend any money. And the only reaction from it is ecstatic. "My first concern is that my books shall be published and distributed profusely all over the world. Practically, books are the basis of our movement. Without our books, our preaching will have no effect." Not less effect, Prabhupada says, no effect. We do what we like and come up with all kinds of brilliant ideas, but if the book distribution is not there with it or connected to it, then there will be no effect, just a material adjustment. There is no doubt about it, to distribute books is our most important activity. The temple is a place not for eating and sleeping, but as a base from which we send out our soldiers to fight with Maya. Fight with Maya means to drop thousands of millions of books into the lap of the conditioned souls. Just like during wartime, the bombs are raining down from the sky like anything. So you are the expert in this field, Prabhupada was writing to Rameshwar. And the manner in 1977, Prabhupada said, "The sales figure, this is my only solace in my life. When I hear that my books are selling nicely, I become like a young man. Go on spreading the Sankirtan movement more and more. I am only one person, but because all of you have kindly cooperated with me, this movement has now become a success all over the world. Be assured there is no more direct way to preach than to distribute Krishna conscious books. Whoever gets a book is benefited. If he reads the book, he is benefited still more. Or if he gives the book to someone else for reading, both he and the other person is benefited. Even if one does not read the book, but simply holds it and sees it, he is benefited. If he simply gives small donation towards the work of Krishna consciousness, he is benefited. And anyone who distributes these transcendental literatures is also benefited. Therefore, Sankirtan is the prime benediction for this age." Famous lecture, Prabhupada in 1974 in LA. "There is no comparison. There is no literature throughout the universe like Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no comparison. There is no competition. Every word is for the good of the human society. Every word, each and every word. Therefore, we stress so much in the book distribution. Somehow or another, if the book goes in one hand, he will be benefited. At least he will see, oh, they have taken so much price. Let me see what is there. If he reads one shlok, his life will be successful. If one shlok, even one word, this is such a nice thing. Therefore, we are stressing so much, please distribute book, distribute book, distribute book, a greater Madanga. We are chanting, playing our Madanga. It is heard within this room a little more. But this Madanga, Brihat Madanga, will go home to home, country to country, community to community, this Madanga. That was a famous quote. And then to Rameshwar 74, the regular reporting is very encouraging for every one of our devotees. And I have faith in your words that next year the figures will be far beyond what they were last year. It is the nature of the spiritual energy. It is always increasing if we just apply our energy. Well, just leave off there on those quotes from Srila Prabhupada and just say that Hare Krishna, maybe we can change the screen there. I don't know what you're seeing, so I can't say. Are we seeing Rasikananda Prabhu on the screen or not? I don't know. I am. No? Okay. So that's just a little introduction to this great upcoming month. And we hope all over the world that devotees have an opportunity to enter into this glorious Sankirtan movement. And Haribol. So any comments or questions? If anyone would like to ask anything or comment on the subject matter, and don't feel bad. I mean, you can feel bad in a positive way, of course, but don't feel, oh God, I'm not into all of this. We can get into it all. Yes, we're not into it in the material world, we're into something else, but we need to get into the spiritual world, how much we're really into it right now. But this is a very special experience when it goes on Sankirtan. Just doing chanting and just doing Krishna consciousness, very special. Just seeing people taking Srila Prabhupada's books is so wonderful. It's so wonderful. You have to taste it to realize that. And maybe, as you all know, we have a little hesitancy, trepidation about going out sometimes or approaching somebody on the street. One of the advantages I find for me in France is because I don't speak very much French, is I don't really have any inhibitions with approaching people, because I don't know if they start getting back at me. I don't usually know what they're saying anyway. I just carry on smiling and encouraging them to take a book, and they go away flustered sometimes. It has its advantages, disadvantages also, but some advantages are there. Even if we don't speak the language, Prabhupada said, this message is so important. And he gave the example of a house burning down. You may not speak the local language, but because it's so important, some or another you'll get the message over. There have been many times when devotees have distributed books without speaking a word. Some of you may have read Shivaram Maharaj's or the post about Shivaram Maharaj. Somebody posted it on the net recently. And they decided one day that all the Sankirtan devotees, the book distributors, would not speak any word at all. They just go up to people and just, put the book in their hands and open it up, like pointing at a particular page or whatever it is, show them some pictures, look at them in the eyes, and say, whatever it is, and then and they just do almost practically as much books as they did when they speak. It's not so much the words or the techniques, it's the heart, consciousness, this mood of Prahlad Maharaj, compassion to the fallen souls. So we follow someone who has that compassion, Srila Prabhupada. And what does he want? He wants many things, but not that he wants anything. He doesn't have anything to gain. He wants that we engage in many things for the pleasure of Krishna and for our own benefit. And amongst all those activities, more than anyone else, for sure, Prabhupada really emphasized the distribution of these transcendental literatures. Somebody's asking, what are the do's and don'ts in book distribution? Well, one thing is Prabhupada didn't want us to upset people. So we should try to, sometimes it's inevitable, no matter what you do in life, you upset somebody. We certainly shouldn't behave in ways that do upset people. So that's one thing, that's a do or don't, whichever way you look at it. Associate with devotees. The attitude, you could say, prayerful attitude. We're not, maybe you're a good salesman or not a good salesman, or confident or not confident, but that's okay. We can utilize everything, but really it's in the heart that we have to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Janananda, our acharyas, etc. Taking shelter, Sankirtan is taking shelter of their lotus feet, the dust of their feet, and trying to do's and don'ts of Sankirtan. Well, good sadhana, if we really want to get a little practical, because we don't have time to get into too many details, but practically speaking, Vaisheshika Prabhu, who may be known to some of you, he's like ISKCON's #1 motivator, or whatever you want to call it, for book distribution. 4 basic principles of book distribution. First one is good sadhana, spiritual strength. Krishna advises that we overcome weaknesses with spiritual strength. So sadhana is there, at least for now, our spiritual strength. That's the one thing. So we're talking about book distribution. Next thing is you've got to have books. It's pretty hard to distribute books if you don't have any, especially when you're going out to the office or shopping or wherever you are. If you don't have any books, very hard to distribute books. It's not impossible, but it's very hard. As I may have mentioned a few weeks ago, on one of Vaisheshika Prabhu's programs, we were discussing Bhadra Punim festival, how to distribute, and he had a little break in the middle of it with some questions, and just a little bit of, simple little questions. Answer which one of these 3 is correct, I cannot distribute books if we don't have books. I can't distribute books if the books have not yet arrived, they're on the way. I cannot distribute books if the books haven't been printed. I cannot distribute books if I don't want to. So there are like 4 different categories there. And tick those that you think you can't distribute, but most people ticked all 4. But he said, no, that's not correct. Only one of those is correct. The only one which is correct is if we don't want to. If we don't want to distribute books, it will not happen. Krishna will not reciprocate. If we want to distribute books, Krishna will reciprocate. So, and he quoted a little bit about France. In France, during Bhadra Punim, because we didn't have any, we had a few English sets. We did just a few. But most people in France are not, at least the ones we know at the moment, not so inclined towards English sets of Bhagavatams. 99% want French. We don't have any French Bhagavatam sets, but in Liège with Vaisheshika Prabhu and the BBT, we sold 200 Bhagavatam, more than 200 Bhagavatam sets, although they've not even been printed, not to speak of arrive. They're not yet, they're on the product, they're in the product with the printer right now. But, he said, actually you can distribute, even if you don't have the books, although the books haven't manifested, people gave the money. They all paid fully, practically almost all, paid fully for the Bhagavatam set in advance. So it's not exactly a book going out, but it's the principle is there. The books have been sold. So that. So having books is essential, ultimately, most essential. And showing the books, you can carry the book in your bag, or in your pocket, whatever. But if you don't show it, it's not likely to jump out of your pocket. I've never seen that happen yet. Maybe sometimes someone fell over and the book fell out their pocket and someone else picked it up. And what's this then? Sometimes there are extraordinary stories, maybe like that also. Unique ways that people get books. But generally you have to show the book. Generally. So that's good sadhana. having books, showing books. And the fourth one, he said, because we may not be talking so much on an individual basis. Also, we could say individual, particularly as a team, organization, management, making sure everything's organized nicely. And if you're having a great way is that they've introduced this, and we haven't done much of it in France yet, maybe we should start, is this, this Sankirtan festivals on Saturdays, monthly Sankirtan fest. And you have a big party of all, invite everybody, you go out with a Harinam and book distribution, book tables and prashadam and, anything and everything that attracts people over, and just make it like a real festival scene on the street or in the park or wherever you go. Make it like a festival that's real fun. They always really enjoy it. Nice prashadam, first class prashadam for the devotees, and they come back and talk about all their experiences and so on and so forth. Joyfully performed. Sankirtan should be joyfully performed. It shouldn't be just, oh no, here I go again. You have to make it joyful. It's a festival. Great festival. These are some of his pointers there, and what you have to do for principles of book distribution. And try not to upset people. And if you have, take shelter of Krishna, and if you have a problem, take shelter of devotees. Read the books. Brothers say, must read the books. Must read them. And there's so many other points could be there. Best thing is to associate with somebody who has got could say genuine spirit for book distribution. Their association, they're a little mature at least, and encourage us according to our level to participate. We can't all imitate. Doesn't matter if you give a pamphlet or find a way of giving a gift away for Christmas or something, or send something to somebody, a book, something or another, find a way according to our level, where we can be an instrument for the dissemination of this Krishna conscious knowledge. Online preaching is becoming more and more not only successful, it's not just an alternative, it's actually a necessity in many cases now because of circumstances. There are many different ways of distributing books according to our capacities. In the association of devotees, anything's possible. Yeah, anything else there? I don't see anything at the moment. Oh, here comes something from India. First one was from Melbourne or Canberra, Australia. An offering that today here is Navsari. Here, you're in Navsari. Wow, far out. In Gujarat, India. We went for book distribution. It was the first time for Priyank. Jai, congratulations. I and the vote distributed 16 books. Congratulations, wonderful. Combination of Bhagavad Gita and Krishna books, fantastic. The first time I ever went on book distribution in this lifetime, in 1972, March 72, I've been doing BTGs, back to Godheads, on occasions here and there. But when I joined the temple, the first time I went on book distribution was big, enormous Krishna books. They were the biggest books you ever did see in ISKCON. They're not like the Krishna book now, much bigger. Big writing, so big, even almost a half blind person would read it. It was really beautiful books. We were going, first day after I had my hair shaved, I went on book distribution with these Krishna books, door to door in Earl's Court, London. And the first door I knocked on, I couldn't believe it. I had this bag with like 4 of these big Krishna books in there. They each weighed over 2 or 3 kilos, practically. So I knocked on the door, at least that much. I knocked on the door and some funny looking guy came to the door. He was a really weird looking fellow, to say the least. He said, "What's this then?" I showed him a Krishna book. He said, "Whoa." He looked through it. He said, "How much is it?" I said, "Well, give what you can," or something like that. He gave me a $5. And in 1972, that was a lot of money. I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, this is so easy. You just knock on the door, show them the book, and they give you the money and take the book. What an easy service this is. This is great. But that was it for the next 6.5 days. only one Krishna book went out, the first one. I thought, well, it's not so easy as I thought. But still we were going out as a group. It was blissful. 4 of us going out together, going independently or individually door to door, but going out, coming together again like that, sharing. And then after a while, somehow or another, it just got into the swing of things. And books started to, I don't know, confidence or technique or mercy or whatever reason it was. Somehow after some months, books started to go out a little bit more easily. And even today, we're going to this city next to New Mayapur called Tours. And every time you go there, it's like, although you would think it'd be more or less the same people every week, same time, same place. But every week now, more and more books are being distributed. It's kind of funny. 4 years ago, if you could distribute 4 or 5 books between us, Bhagavad Gitas we're talking about, in that town on the tour in the Harinam, you were quite pleased. Many times as well as we tried with a single Bhagavad Gita. But now it's regularly, we do 50 or more Bhagavad Gitas just on a couple of hours of Harinam. It's very different. I don't know if it's the people, Krishna, whatever it is. It's just, there's no end. You can't say, oh, we've distributed to everyone. That's not a fact. We've hardly started. There's billions of people out there waiting. Billions. And so, great, do what you can. And in India, of course, I was speaking, I gave an initiation the other day in Punjabi Bagh, for Punjabi Bagh, no, I wasn't there, but online, and in Delhi, and they're asking how much your quota for them. Have you got a quota, that target for the marathon? You make goals, generally you make a goal. You make a goal which is definitely achievable, not something ridiculous or imitative. But their goal this year is 300,000 Bhagavad Gitas during the December months. 300,000 Gitas. Phew, my God, we can't dream of that yet in France. That's 300,000 Bhagavad Gitas during December. I said, why only 3? Why not 5? Come on, you can do more than that. But anyway, they're setting their target, and it is achievable for sure for them. Such as the fire. We work together as a team. We work together, inspiring each other. There are no limits. There's no limit. Krishna is unlimited. So there's no way of saying, oh, we can't do more than that. Prabhupada said impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. You can do it. So wherever you are, we wish you all the best in your efforts to distribute Prabhupada's books. Pray for his mercy. Thank you, Priyank. Thank you, Janananda. Anything else? Come on, there's some stalwart book distributors online. Let me see who's there. Let me see who's there. I can only see Vasikananda for the last 20 minutes. I can't see anyone else. Let's see, we got Nitai Charan, there he is, full-time book distributor in Lisbon. He's in Portugal, one of our French brahmacharis, not French, but he's one of our brahmacharis here in France. At the moment he's in Portugal, helping out the temple there, so we've asked him to stay there for the marathon. And there's the temple in Lisbon. I don't know if you can see it a little bit there. I can see it. I don't know if you all can. Jagannath Deities. Lisbon's in Portugal. We have Madhavananda. Madhavananda is a staunch book distributor in the Gold Coast in Australia. Gokularani. Gokularani is one of our Trojans here in France. She's a young lady of 78 years old, and she goes out every day if she can on the street, distributing Prabhupada's books. Steady as a rock. And she also has to look after her husband, who's been basically an invalid for years. But she tries to go out every day on book distribution as much as she can. Vasikananda will know that. He was there with us. There's Madhavananda. Who else have we got there? There's Rohini Nandan. Would love to do more books in Paris, won't you, Rohini Nandan? Probably during this marathon, I think. So I don't necessarily know everybody here, but then by what's written on the screen. Anyway, different devotees. I'm sure many of you are loving to distribute Prabhupada's books this marathon. Be it 1, 2, or a million, it doesn't matter. Whatever you can do what you can. Do what you can. Bhakti Lata from Kerala, Trivandrum also will be doing books, I'm sure of that. And please forgive me, Haridas Thakur in Hong Kong is now going to, he's a Grihasta, he wants to dedicate his whole life now to book distribution. Even though he's married and family commitments are there. And to say Srinivas in Hamilton, New Zealand, also they love to distribute. Whole family goes out on Sankirtan. Martin in Svitovi in Slovakia, in Czech rather, doesn't do so many books, but I'll give you an encouraging story about him. He runs a restaurant together with his wife and 1 or 2 others in this little town called Svitovi. It's only a population of 20,000 people, which isn't very big by European standards, to say the least. They get an average of 200 to 300 people for lunch every day, paying. Small town, maybe he's just jumped off the screen. No, he's still there. Amazing what you can do if you desire. Simply desire to serve Krishna's will. Anyway, everybody else, whoever's on screen, doesn't matter. Just do your best to assist us. If you do nothing else, you could just give a donation to the Sankirtan party to distribute books or something, or make cookies for them to give to people. Something we can do to be a part of this great party, this great festival. Yeah. So I guess that's it then. So we're going to be, here's another one. Overcoming ego in book distribution is hard. How to face the rejection. Well, yeah. False ego. A real ego is of course, without any material motivation. It's unmotivated. It's just because that is the spiritual platform to simply think Radharani only lives to fulfill Krishna's desires, and we're servants of Radharani or Radharani's party. So naturally, she knows how to fulfill Krishna's desires. We just have to follow her. So always keeping that in mind, keeping the heart in mind, that although, sometimes we think we're the doer, sometimes we think, I likes and I don't likes and all these various things come up. Duality comes in because we're on a material platform. We just keep doing it. It's the same with chanting Hare Krishna. So many offenses or material desires come up. What to do? Stop? No, you just have to carry on chanting and try to be more attentive. So you carry on. You carry on distributing books and pray to Lord Nityananda. Even in the Bhagavatam, you see on several occasions, great personalities, Lord Brahma, when he created the universe, prayed that he not become overwhelmed with false ego in the course of his creation. Priyavata Maharaj, when he was asked to take on universal management responsibilities, he also prayed that he would not become, implicated or overwhelmed in this idea of putting himself in the center, that always remain humble, taking the dust of the devotees' feet. Service to the Vaishnavas, keep serving the devotees, praying, like that, just be humble. So it's not like I don't have press the button, the green button, and you'll be free of ego when you're on Sankirtan. It's a matter of will. Again, it's desire, recognition, and then approaching Krishna or the devotees with heartfelt desire. Please save me from this, egotistical approach or whatever it may be. But Krishna will, don't worry. You'll find that happens all the time when you're on Sankirtan. It happened to me a few weeks ago, and I thought, what's going on today? It was set in that same town, city tours. I think in the first hour, for me, that was like unbelievable. I just did 8 Bhagavad Gitas. If I could do that in a day, it's a miracle. But I just did like 8 Bhagavad Gitas in an hour. And I thought, what's happening today? Almost everyone was stopping, and so many people were taking the Gitas and giving donations. What's going on here? Oh, wow, this is my day. And that was one more or 2 more went out for the rest of the afternoon. It was like, okay, Krishna, that's nice. No problem. Krishna has his ways of doing it. Don't worry, if you're sincere. He'll help you. He's here to help those. It's like if you have a salesman, you're going to do everything you can to help them to be successful. If that salesman is taking something for himself, you're going to try to rectify him first. So if we're trying to take a bit of the praise for ourselves or the recognition for ourselves, Krishna will rectify him. Otherwise, we won't be a proper salesman. Krishna is to be glorified. Krishna is they're his books. They're meant for his glorification, not ourselves. He's kind of distributing his books through us. Okay. Jai Prabhupada. Okay, we'll have some kirtan and it's 5 to 11 over here. Whatever it is late at night for many of you Kiwis and Aussies. So thank you very much everyone for joining us wherever you are in New Zealand. I see Nimai in New Zealand there, and Srinivas is there from Australia, and Parvati and so many others from Philippines, and Czech and Slovak, Philippines, Malaysia, India. So many wonderful devotees are online today. England, several devotees from the UK and France, Holland, Germany. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Fiji, Hare Rama, Rama Hong Kong, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Hare Bol.
Hare
Krishna.
Jai
Hare Hare Bol.
जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय।
जय श्री गुरु की जय।
Jai.
We'll let you know when we're having, now the marathon's starting, we're just getting today, we're starting getting the troops ready. Tomorrow we're hoping to send parties out. On Tuesday we're hoping to hit the road. And this is what Krishna arranges. You can't put a Sankirtan devotee into lockdown. It doesn't work. They'll always find a way to get the books out there somehow or another. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
हरे कृष्णा
Hare Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Prem. Hare Hare Bol.